The great hall of the Galactic Council fell silent. 47 species sat in their designated seats, their various forms casting strange shadows under the blue lights. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed softly in the darkness. But all of them shared the same expression today: fear. Ambassador Thielric stood at the center podium. His forearms trembled slightly as he gripped the speaking stone. His kind, the Zenthari, looked like giant mantises from Earth's history books. Their green exoskeletons usually shimmered with confidence, but today looked dull and tired. "We are losing," he said simply. His translator made the words sound flat and emotionless, but everyone could hear the desperation behind them. "The Vrex Collective has destroyed the Kepler Gate defense fleet. 80% casualties. They are coming for our core worlds now." Murmurs spread through the hall like wildfire. Some delegates clicked their mandibles in distress. Others released chemical signals of fear that the air filters struggled to clean. The Vrex Collective had been unstoppable for 3 years. They consumed everything in their path. Entire civilizations had vanished, their worlds turned into lifeless husks. Chancellor Morvac, leader of the council, raised his 6-fingered hand for silence. The old Calthean's skin had faded from bright purple to a worried gray. He had led the council for 30 cycles, but nothing in his long life had prepared him for this. "What options remain?" Morvac asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "None that we have not already tried," replied General Korst, head of the council military. The reptilian commander's scales were scarred from 100 battles. "We have thrown everything at them. Our best weapons barely scratch their shields. Our fastest ships cannot match their speed. Every battle is a massacre." Felix straightened his posture. He knew what he had to say next would cause an uproar. He had debated this moment for weeks, losing sleep cycles over it. But time had run out. "There is one option we have not tried," he said carefully. "One species we have not asked for help." The hall erupted. Delegates shouted over each other. Some banged their appendages on their desks. Chancellor Morvac had to call for order 3 times before the noise settled. "You cannot be serious," hissed Ambassador Velter of the Syl Dominion. The snake-like being's eyes glowed red with anger. "The humans? Those barbaric primitives who rejected our generous offer of membership, who sealed themselves behind their star system like frightened children." "Barbaric? Yes," Felix agreed calmly. "Primitive? I am not so sure anymore." He pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared in the center of the hall showing Earth's solar system, the Sol system as humans called it. It had been quarantined for 200 years, ever since first contact had gone terribly wrong. 2 centuries ago, we met humanity," Delrix continued. "They were violent, unpredictable. They fought wars among themselves even as we spoke of peace. When pirates attacked their colony ship, the human response was so brutal that 3 species filed formal complaints. We labeled them as dangerous and suggested isolation. They agreed and sealed their borders." "Exactly my point," Velter interrupted. "They are savages. What help could they possibly offer?" Felix manipulated the display, zooming in on the outer edges of the Sol system. Strange structures appeared: massive stations, weapons platforms, ships in configurations no one recognized. "Our long-range scouts have detected unusual activity," Delrix explained. "Humanity has not been idle during their isolation. They have been building, developing. There are rumors, whispers from traders who venture too close to their borders. Stories of weapons that violate council laws. Technologies we deemed too cruel to use." General Korst leaned forward, his interest piqued. "What kind of weapons?" "We do not know the details," Delrix admitted. "But traders speak of human ships that move faster than anything we have built. Of kinetic weapons that strike with the force of small stars. Of artificial intelligences that guide swarms of drones. All things our ethics committees banned centuries ago." The hall fell silent again. This time it was a different kind of silence. Not fear of the Vrex, but uncertainty about humanity. Chancellor Morvac spoke slowly. "You suggest we invite the wolves to save us from the tigers." "I suggest we have no other choice," Delrix replied. The Vrex will reach our core worlds in 3 months, perhaps less. If we do nothing, we will be extinct in a year. If humans are as dangerous as we fear, then perhaps that is exactly what we need. The debate lasted for hours. Some delegates argued passionately against involving humanity. Others reluctantly agreed that desperate times called for desperate measures. In the end, the vote was close, 25 species in favor, 22 against. The humans would be contacted. 3 weeks later, Delrix found himself aboard a small diplomatic vessel approaching the edges of human space. His crew was nervous. The last ship that crossed this boundary without permission had been vaporized instantly. They sent the agreed-upon codes and waited. The response came within seconds. A voice speaking perfect galactic standard, crisp and professional. Zenthari vessel, this is Earth Defense Station 12. State your purpose. I am Ambassador Felix of the Galactic Council, he transmitted. I request an audience with your leaders. We require assistance in a matter of galactic security. There was a pause. Delrix imagined humans on the other end, deciding whether to vaporize his ship or hear him out. Proceed to the coordinates we are sending now, the voice finally said. Deviate from the flight path and automated defenses will engage. We will send an escort. The escort arrived within minutes. 3 human ships, each no larger than a standard fighter craft, but moving with unnatural precision. Their hulls were dark, almost invisible against space except for their running lights. As they guided Felix's ship deeper into the Sol system, he saw more of humanity's defenses. Weapon platforms orbited every major planet. Massive railguns pointed outward, their barrels wider than his entire ship. Missile batteries capable of launching thousands of projectiles. And everywhere, patrol ships moved in complex patterns, their formations suggesting military precision beyond anything the Council employed. They took him to a space station orbiting Mars. It was enormous, easily the size of a small moon. The station's architecture was purely functional, with none of the artistic flourishes most species preferred. Everything about it screamed efficiency and purpose. Felix was escorted through corridors filled with humans in military uniforms. They all stopped to stare at him. Some looked curious, others hostile. One young human touched his weapon nervously as he passed. The ambassador felt very small and very alone. Finally, he was brought to a conference room. A single human woman waited for him. She wore a crisp black uniform with silver insignia. Her hair was pulled back severely, and her blue eyes studied him with cold calculation. She stood when he entered. Ambassador Thielric, she said, her translator rendering her words in Zenthari. I am Admiral Sarah Kowalski, commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. Please sit. Thielric settled into a chair designed for various alien anatomies. Admiral Kowalski sat across from him, her hands folded on the table. 200 years, she said quietly. That is how long it has been since the Galactic Council told us to stay away. How long since you abandoned the Aurora colony to raiders and told us it was not your problem. How long since you called us barbaric and suggested we remain in our corner of space. Thielric's mandibles clicked nervously. He had read the historical files. He knew humanity had legitimate grievances. I remember, Thielric said carefully. The Council failed you then. I will not pretend otherwise. But now the galaxy faces extinction. The Vrex Collective is destroying everything. In 3 months they will reach the core worlds. We are asking for help. Admiral Kowalski's expression did not change. Why should we care what happens outside our borders? You made it clear we were not welcome in your galaxy. Because the Vrex will not stop at Council Worlds, Thielric replied. Once they finish with us, they will come for you. Help us now or face them alone later. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled up a holographic display. Images of Vrex ships appeared, along with battle data. We have been monitoring the situation, Kowalski admitted. Our long-range intelligence has tracked the Vrex for 2 years. We know what they are capable of. We also know that your fleets are being slaughtered. She manipulated the display, showing different ship designs and weapon systems. Your problem is simple, she continued. You fight like you are playing a game with rules, honor, ethics, measured responses. The Vrex do not care about rules. They care about winning. And so do we. Thielric felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying you will help us? I am saying we will consider it, Kowalski replied. But there will be conditions. If we fight our way. No council committees second-guessing our tactics. No ethics reviews. No restrictions. You give us operational freedom or we stay home. The council will agree to any terms, Thielric said quickly, perhaps too quickly, but desperation left no room for pride. Admiral Kowalski nodded slowly. Then humanity will help. We will send our expeditionary fleet to your staging area. 50 ships. Thielric's heart sank. 50? Admiral, the Vrex bring thousands of ships to each battle. The Council's remaining forces number only a few hundred vessels. 50 ships will make no difference. For the first time, Admiral Kowalski smiled. It was not a warm smile. Ambassador, you asked for our help because your fleets number in the thousands and are still losing. Perhaps numbers are not what matter. Perhaps 50 of our ships will be enough. Perhaps they will be more than enough. 2 weeks later, Thielric stood in the command center of the Council's primary staging ground. Around him, officers from dozens of species monitored displays and coordinated what remained of their military forces. Everyone was waiting for the human fleet to arrive. When the jump signatures appeared, the room fell silent. 50 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, but they were like nothing Thielric had ever seen. Council ships were elegant, with smooth curves and artistic designs. Human ships were brutal. Angular hulls covered in armor plating, massive weapon mounts bristling with railguns and missile pods. No decorations. No wasted space. Pure function. General Korst approached, staring at the display. The old general's scales had gone pale. Those are warships, Korst whispered. True warships. Not exploration vessels with weapons added. Not diplomatic cruisers modified for combat. Ships built from the hull up to kill. Admiral Kowalski's face appeared on the main view screen. Behind her, Thielric could see a command bridge filled with human officers working at their stations with focused intensity. This is Admiral Kowalski of the Earth Defense Fleet, she announced. We are ready to receive mission briefing and tactical data. Chancellor Morvac himself appeared on another screen. The old Calthean looked even more tired than before. Admiral Kowalski, on behalf of the Galactic Council, we thank you for coming. We hope your 50 ships will make a difference. Kowalski's expression remained neutral. Chancellor, these are not all of our ships. These are merely what we felt comfortable sending away from home defense. We have 500 more ships in the Sol system. This is just our expeditionary force. The command center erupted in shocked murmurs. 500 ships in reserve. Humanity had built a fleet larger than most council members combined, and no one had known. Thielric looked at the human warships on his display, their brutal efficiency and obvious purpose. For the first time since the war began, he felt something other than despair. He felt a tiny spark of hope, and beneath that hope a different emotion, one that made his mandibles click nervously. Fear. Not fear of the Vrex. Fear of what the humans might do once this war was over. Admiral Sarah Kowalski stood on the bridge of the EDS Prometheus, watching as council officers toured the human warships. Their reactions were predictable: confusion, awe, sometimes fear. She had seen it all before during the inspection period. The council delegation had arrived 3 hours ago. They came aboard with scanning equipment and data tablets, determined to understand the technology that humanity had developed in isolation. What they found confused them more than it enlightened them. A Calthean engineer named Vextel approached Kowalski. His purple skin flushed darker with frustration. He held up a portable scanner that beeped erratically. Admiral, we cannot identify half the systems on this vessel, Vextel said through his translator. Your power generation reads as fusion, but the output levels are impossible for that technology. Your propulsion system uses quantum entanglement for faster-than-light travel, which should not work according to established physics. And these weapons. He gestured helplessly at a nearby display. We have no classification for them at all. Kowalski allowed herself a small smile. Engineer Vextel, humanity has had 200 years to develop without interference. We took paths your council's ethics committees would never have approved. That is why our technology looks alien to you, because it is built on different principles. But the laws of physics are universal, Vextel protested weakly. Yes, Kowalski agreed. But your interpretation of what is possible or ethical, that is what held you back. We had no such limitations. She pulled up a holographic display showing the Prometheus's main weapons array. This is a railgun. Nothing fancy. We accelerate a tungsten rod. The great hall of the Galactic Council fell silent. 47 species sat in their designated seats, their various forms casting strange shadows under the blue lights. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed softly in the darkness. But all of them shared the same expression today: fear. Ambassador Thielric stood at the center podium. His forearms trembled slightly as he gripped the speaking stone. His kind, the Zenthari, looked like giant mantises from Earth's history books. Their green exoskeletons usually shimmered with confidence, but today they looked dull and tired. We are losing, he said simply. His translator made the words sound flat and emotionless, but everyone could hear the desperation behind them. The Vrex Collective has destroyed the Kepler Gate defense fleet. 80% casualties. They are coming for our core worlds now. Murmurs spread through the hall like wildfire. Some delegates clicked their mandibles in distress. Others released chemical signals of fear that the air filters struggled to clean. The Vrex Collective had been unstoppable for 3 years. They consumed everything in their path. Entire civilizations had vanished. Their worlds turned into lifeless husks. Chancellor Morvac, leader of the council, raised his 6-fingered hand for silence. The old Calthean's skin had faded from bright purple to a worried gray. He had led the council for 30 cycles, but nothing in his long life had prepared him for this. What options remain? Morvac asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. None that we have not already tried, replied General Korst, head of the council military. The reptilian commander's scales were scarred from 100 battles. We have thrown everything at them. Our best weapons barely scratch their shields. Our fastest ships cannot match their speed. Every battle is a massacre. Felix straightened his posture. He knew what he had to say next would cause an uproar. He had debated this moment for weeks, losing sleep cycles over it. But time had run out. There is one option we have not tried, he said carefully. One species we have not asked for help. The hall erupted. Delegates shouted over each other. Some banged their appendages on their desks. Chancellor Morvac had to call for order 3 times before the noise settled. You cannot be serious, hissed Ambassador Velter of the Syl Dominion. The snake-like being's eyes glowed red with anger. The humans? Those barbaric primitives who rejected our generous offer of membership, who sealed themselves behind their star system like frightened children. Barbaric? Yes, Felix agreed calmly. Primitive? I am not so sure anymore. He pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared in the center of the hall showing Earth's solar system, the Sol system as humans called it. It had been quarantined for 200 years, ever since first contact had gone terribly wrong. 2 centuries ago, we met humanity, Felix continued. They were violent, unpredictable. They fought wars among themselves even as we spoke of peace. When pirates attacked their colony ship, the human response was so brutal that 3 species filed formal complaints. We labeled them as dangerous and suggested isolation. They agreed and sealed their borders. Exactly my point, Velter interrupted. They are savages. What help could they possibly offer? Felix manipulated the display, zooming in on the outer edges of the Sol system. Strange structures appeared, massive stations, weapons platforms, ships in configurations no one recognized. Our long-range scouts have detected unusual activity, Felix explained. Humanity has not been idle during their isolation. They have been building, developing. There are rumors, whispers from traders who venture too close to their borders. Stories of weapons that violate Council laws. Technologies we deemed too cruel to use. General Korst leaned forward, his interest piqued. What kind of weapons? We do not know the details, Felix admitted. But traders speak of human ships that move faster than anything we have built. Of kinetic weapons that strike with the force of small stars. Of artificial intelligences that guide swarms of drones. All things our ethics committees banned centuries ago. The hall fell silent again. This time it was a different kind of silence, not fear of the Vrex, but uncertainty about humanity. Chancellor Morvac spoke slowly. You suggest we invite the wolves to save us from the tigers. I suggest we have no other choice, Felix replied. The Vrex will reach our core world soon. If we do nothing, we will be extinct. If humans are as dangerous as we fear, then perhaps that is exactly what we need. The debate lasted for hours. Some delegates argued passionately against involving humanity. Others reluctantly agreed that desperate times called for desperate measures. In the end, the vote was close. The humans would be contacted. Weeks later, Felix found himself aboard a small diplomatic vessel approaching the edge of human space. His crew was nervous. The last ship that crossed this boundary without permission had been vaporized instantly. They sent the agreed-upon codes and waited. The response came within seconds. A voice spoke in perfect galactic standard, crisp and professional. Zenthari vessel, this is Earth Defense Station 12. State your purpose. I am Ambassador Felix of the Galactic Council, he transmitted. I request an audience with your leaders. We require assistance in a matter of galactic security. There was a pause. Felix imagined humans on the other end, deciding whether to vaporize his ship or hear him out. Proceed to coordinates, the voice finally said. Deviate from the flight path and automated defenses will engage. We will send an escort. The escort arrived within minutes. 3 human ships, each no larger than a standard fighter craft, moved with unnatural precision. Their hulls were dark, almost invisible against space except for their running lights. As they guided Felix's ship deeper into the Sol system, he saw more of humanity's defenses. Weapon platforms orbited every major planet. Massive railguns pointed outward, their barrels wider than his entire ship. Missile batteries capable of launching thousands of projectiles, and everywhere patrol ships moving in complex patterns. Their formations suggested military precision beyond anything the Council employed. They brought him to a massive station orbiting Mars. Everything about it was functional. No decoration, no artistry, only efficiency and purpose. Inside, humans in military uniforms moved with focused discipline. Some stared at him with curiosity, others with hostility. One young human rested a hand on their weapon as he passed. Felix felt very small and very alone. Finally, he was brought into a conference room. A single human woman waited. She wore a crisp black uniform with silver insignia. Her hair was pulled back tightly, and her blue eyes studied him with cold calculation. She stood as he entered. Ambassador Thielrick, she said. I am Admiral Sarah Kowalski, commander of the Earth Defense Fleet. Please sit. They would hit them before the Council forces arrived. By the time the Council fleet reached the system, the battle would already be decided. Webb nodded sharply. Aye, Admiral. Kowalski walked to the center of the bridge, standing in front of the main view screen. Around her, the crew worked at their stations, their faces showing the calm focus that came from years of training. These were not inexperienced recruits. Every person on this bridge had seen combat. Every person knew what was coming. All vessels report ready for jump, Admiral, the navigation officer announced. Kowalski took a deep breath. This was it. The moment humanity revealed itself to the galaxy, not as the barbaric isolationists the Council remembered, but as something far more dangerous. A species that had turned warfare into an art form. Execute jump, she ordered. Take us to war. The 50 human warships vanished from Council space in synchronized flashes of light. Behind them, panicked Council officers scrambled to prepare their own forces. They had no idea what they were about to witness. None of them understood that the human fleet was not rushing to join a desperate defense. They were rushing to demonstrate exactly why humanity should never have been isolated, why keeping them locked away from the galaxy had been a mercy, not for humanity, but for everyone else. 30 minutes later, 50 human warships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Proxima Secunda system. Alarms immediately sounded across every bridge. Sensors confirmed Vrek's fleet presence, Lieutenant Chun reported, counting 2,943 vessels. They are in attack formation around the planet, reading multiple weapon signatures consistent with planetary bombardment preparations. Kowalski studied the tactical display. The Vrek's fleet was enormous, a dark swarm surrounding the blue-green world below. Already, the first bombardment strikes were falling on the planet's surface. Mushroom clouds bloomed across cities. Millions were dying every second. Distance to enemy fleet? Kowalski asked calmly. 7 million kilometers and closing. We are on intercept course at 0.3 light speed. Status of Council forces? 200 Council ships detected. They are engaging the Vreks but taking heavy casualties. Down to 180 ships and falling fast. Kowalski nodded slowly. As expected, the Council forces were brave but outmatched. They would all be dead within the hour. Do the Vreks know we are here? Their long-range sensors should have detected us, but they have not altered formation or diverted forces. They appear to be ignoring us. Commander Webb grunted. 50 ships against 3,000. They think we are reinforcements. Not worth their attention. They are about to learn differently, Kowalski said quietly. Weapons, charge all railguns to maximum yield. Antimatter torpedoes load full complement. Drone bays, prepare for mass deployment. Defensive systems to full power. All systems charging, Admiral, the weapons officer reported. We will be in effective range in 2 minutes. Communications. Fleet-wide channel open. Admiral Kowalski's voice went out to every human ship in the fleet. 50 captains and thousands of crew members heard her words. This is Admiral Kowalski to all vessels. We are about to engage an enemy fleet that outnumbers us 60-1. They have never faced human weapons. They do not know what we are capable of. They think we are just another group of Council ships rushing to die bravely. She paused, letting her words settle. We are going to teach them the error of that assumption. 200 years ago, the galaxy told us we were too violent, too dangerous, too barbaric. They feared what we might do if we were unleashed. Today, they invited us back. They asked for our help. Another pause. So let us show them exactly what they were afraid of. Let us show the Vreks why humanity is something to fear. Execute Protocol Hammer. All vessels weapons free. Fire at will. The human fleet accelerated directly toward the Vreks armada. They did not slow down. They did not deploy in defensive formations. They charged like ancient cavalry, engines burning at maximum thrust, closing the distance at 0.3 light speed. The Vreks finally noticed them. Alerts spread through the enemy fleet as sensors picked up unusual energy signatures. The human ships were not like Council vessels. Their power outputs were wrong. Their weapons configurations were unrecognizable. Their approach was suicidal. Fleet Commander Vormik of the Vreks Collective watched the human ship's approach on his tactical display. His species had evolved from pack hunters on a harsh world. They understood violence in a primal way. They had conquered dozens of civilizations through sheer brutality and overwhelming force. Nothing had ever frightened them until now. Something about these ships made Vormika's instincts scream warnings. They moved wrong, accelerated wrong. Their formations suggested purpose and calculation that felt disturbingly familiar, like looking into a mirror and seeing something more predatory staring back. Destroy them, Vormik ordered. All forward batteries target those ships. Eliminate them before they reach effective weapons range. 300 Vreks warships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked across space toward the human fleet. It was enough firepower to vaporize a planet's surface. It should have annihilated the 50 human ships instantly. The weapon struck and nothing happened. Kowalski watched as the barrage impacted her fleet. The shields flared white-hot for a moment, then stabilized. The quantum-hardened ablative shielding dispersed the energy across multiple dimensions, shunting most of it away harmlessly. Shield status. Shields holding at 97%. Enemy weapons are ineffective. Range to targets? Entering effective range in 5 seconds. Kowalski's hands tightened on the arms of her command chair. Fire! 50 human warships unleashed hell. The railguns fired first. Tungsten rods, each weighing 50 kilograms, accelerated to .9 light speed. They crossed the remaining distance in fractions of a second. When they struck Vrex ships, physics did the rest. The kinetic energy converted instantly into heat and light. Vrex warships did not explode. They did not break apart. They simply ceased to exist, vaporized in microseconds by relativistic impacts. 200 Vrex vessels vanished in the first salvo. Before the fleet could react, the second wave hit. Antimatter torpedoes streaked forward, containment fields barely holding their deadly cargo. They detonated in the densest parts of the formation. Each explosion became a miniature sun. Matter and antimatter annihilated each other, releasing more energy than any shield could withstand. Ships within 500 kilometers were instantly destroyed. Those within 1,000 were crippled by radiation and electromagnetic pulses. Hundreds more Vrex ships died in nuclear fire. Then came the drones. 50,000 autonomous combat units poured from the human fleet like a swarm of metal locusts, moving with terrifying coordination. They moved in perfect coordination. Their AI systems communicated at the speed of light, sharing targeting data, identifying priorities, and adapting to Vrex defensive patterns in real time. The Vrex point defense systems opened fire desperately. They destroyed hundreds of drones, then thousands, but for every drone destroyed, 10 more slipped through. The drones were small, fast, and intelligent. They jinked and weaved, used destroyed ships as cover, and coordinated their approaches to overwhelm individual targets. They slammed into Vrex warships by the hundreds, each one carrying enough explosive power to penetrate hulls and detonate inside. Capital ships shuddered as dozens of drones impacted simultaneously, explosions tearing through their interiors, followed by secondary detonations as reactors and ammunition stores ignited. Vormik watched in horror as his fleet disintegrated around him. 5 minutes ago, his fleet had numbered nearly 3,000 vessels. Now, his tactical display showed fewer than 2,000, and the losses were accelerating. "All ships, fall back," he ordered desperately. "Get us out of here." But the human fleet was not done. They had closed to point-blank range, moving through the Vrex formation like sharks through a school of fish. More railgun strikes, more torpedoes, more drones. The slaughter continued without pause. Council forces watching from the edges of the battle sat in stunned silence. Their sensors showed impossible things. Human ships moving at speeds that should tear them apart, weapons striking with force that seemed to defy known limits, drone swarms exhibiting intelligence that made their own systems look primitive. Everywhere, ships were dying, vaporizing, exploding, breaking apart. The mighty Vrex collective, terror of the galaxy, was being systematically annihilated. Not defeated, annihilated. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted exactly 5 minutes and 43 seconds from the first human railgun shot to the last Vrex ship either destroyed or fleeing. 3,000 Vrex vessels had entered the battle. 2,891 were destroyed. 109 escaped, their faster-than-light engines engaged in full retreat. Human casualties, 0. Ammunition expended, 23%. Admiral Kowalski stood on her bridge, watching the debris field that had once been the Vrex fleet. Fragments of wreckage drifted through space, glowing with residual heat. A few escape pods floated aimlessly, their occupants broadcasting desperate surrender signals. "Status of the planet," she ordered. "Bombardment has ceased. Preliminary scans indicate heavy damage to 3 major cities. Estimated casualties in the millions, but the remaining population is safe." Kowalski nodded slowly. "Contact the Council fleet. Inform them the Vrex have been eliminated. They should proceed with evacuation and relief operations." "Admiral," Commander Webb said quietly. We just destroyed an entire fleet. The Council forces saw everything. They are going to have questions. I know, Kowalski replied. She looked at the tactical display, at the 50 human ships holding position in perfect formation, undamaged without a single casualty. Let them ask. We did what they could not. We saved those people. If the Council has a problem with our methods, they should not have asked for our help. Incoming transmissions flooded the main view screen. Requests for information, demands for tactical data, questions about casualties, confusion over what they had just witnessed. Kowalski ignored them all. She had one more message to send. Communications, tight beam transmission to Earth. Inform command that first contact with the Vrex is complete. The enemy has been engaged and defeated with minimal resource expenditure. We await further orders. Message sent, Admiral. Kowalski leaned back in her command chair. The easy part was over. The battle was won. Now came the difficult part, explaining to the galaxy what humanity had become during 2 centuries of isolation. And dealing with the inevitable question, if humans could do this to the Vrex, what could they do to everyone else? The silence in the Council Command Center was absolute. Officers from 47 species stood frozen at their stations, staring at displays that showed the impossible. The Vrex fleet, 3,000 strong, had been annihilated in under 6 minutes. The human fleet of 50 ships sat undamaged among the debris. Ambassador Thiel felt his legs give out beneath him. He collapsed into his chair, his mandibles clicking uncontrollably. His mind struggled to process what he had just seen. The math was simple but terrifying. 3,000 enemy ships destroyed. 50 human ships untouched. It had not been a battle. It had been an execution. General Korst approached slowly, gripping the back of a chair for support. His scales had gone completely gray with shock. What are they? He whispered. What, in the name of the ancestors, are they? Before anyone could answer, Admiral Kowalski's face appeared on every screen in the command center. Her expression was calm, almost bored, as if she had just completed a routine exercise rather than the most devastating victory in recorded history. Council Command, this is Admiral Kowalski. The Vrex fleet has been eliminated. The planet Proxima Secundus is secure. Human forces are standing by for further orders. We have sufficient munitions remaining for 2 more engagements of similar scale. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Humanity had used less than a quarter of its ammunition to destroy an entire armada. What could they do at full capacity? Chancellor Morvac finally found his voice. His skin had turned pale with shock. Admiral Kowalski, we thank you for your assistance. The people of Proxima Secundus owe you an enormous debt. But we must ask, what happened here? How did you achieve such a decisive victory? Kowalski's expression did not change. We engaged the enemy using standard human combat doctrine. Our weapons performed as designed. The Vrex fleet was destroyed. Is there something unclear about those facts? Admiral, Morvac said carefully, you destroyed 3,000 warships in less than 6 minutes. Your fleet suffered 0 casualties. This is unprecedented. We need to understand how this is possible. With respect, Chancellor, Kowalski replied. You need to understand that this is what war looks like when it is conducted properly. The Vrex were using outdated tactics and inferior weapons. We exploited those weaknesses. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council fell silent. 47 species sat in their designated seats, their various forms casting strange shadows under the blue lights. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed softly in the darkness. But all of them shared the same expression today: fear. Ambassador Thielrick stood at the center podium. His forearms trembled slightly as he gripped the speaking stone. His kind, the Zenthari, looked like giant mantises from Earth's history books. Their green exoskeletons usually shimmered with confidence, but today they looked dull and tired. We are losing, he said simply. His translator made the words sound flat and emotionless, but everyone could hear the desperation behind them. The Vrex Collective has destroyed the Kepler Gate defense fleet. 80% casualties. They are coming for our core worlds now. Murmurs spread through the hall like wildfire. Some delegates clicked their mandibles in distress. Others released chemical signals of fear that the air filters struggled to clean. The Vrex Collective had been unstoppable for 3 years. They consumed everything in their path. Entire civilizations had vanished. Their worlds turned into lifeless husks. Chancellor Morvac, leader of the council, raised his 6-fingered hand for silence. The old Calthean's skin had faded from bright purple to a worried gray. He had led the council for 30 cycles, but nothing in his long life had prepared him for this. What options remain? Morvac asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. None that we have not already tried, replied General Korst, head of the council military. The reptilian commander's scales were scarred from 100 battles. We have thrown everything at them. Our best weapons barely scratch their shields. Our fastest ships cannot match their speed. Every battle is a massacre. Felix straightened his posture. He knew what he had to say next would cause an uproar. He had debated this moment for weeks, losing sleep over it, but time had run out. There is one option we have not tried, he said carefully. One species we have not asked for help. The hall erupted. Delegates shouted over each other. Some banged their appendages on their desks. Chancellor Morvac had to call for order 3 times before the noise settled. You cannot be serious, hissed Ambassador Velter of the Sill Dominion. The snake-like being's eyes glowed red with anger. The humans? Those barbaric primitives who rejected our generous offer of membership? Who sealed themselves behind their star system like frightened children? Barbaric? Yes, Felix agreed calmly. Primitive? I am not so sure anymore. He pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared in the center of the hall showing Earth's solar system, the Sol system as humans called it. It had been quarantined for 200 years, ever since first contact had gone terribly wrong. 2 centuries ago, we met humanity, Felix continued. They were violent, unpredictable. They fought wars among themselves even as we spoke of peace. When pirates attacked their colony ship, the human response was so brutal that 3 species filed formal complaints. We labeled them dangerous and suggested isolation. They agreed and sealed their borders. Exactly my point, Velter interrupted. They are savages. What help could they possibly offer? Felix manipulated the display, zooming in on the outer edges of the Sol system. Strange structures appeared, massive stations, weapons platforms, ships in configurations no one recognized. Our long-range scouts have detected unusual activity, Felix explained. Humanity has not been idle during their isolation. They have been building, developing. There are rumors, whispers from traders who venture too close to their borders. Stories of weapons that violate council laws. Technologies we deemed too cruel to use. General Korst leaned forward, his interest piqued. What kind of weapons? We do not know the details, Felix admitted. But traders speak of human ships that move faster than anything we have built, of kinetic weapons that strike with the force of small stars, of artificial intelligences that guide swarms of drones. Things our ethics committees banned centuries ago. The hall fell silent again. This time it was a different kind of silence. Not fear of the Vrex, but uncertainty about humanity. Chancellor Morvac spoke slowly. You suggest we invite the wolves to save us from the tigers. I suggest we have no other choice, Felix replied. The Vrex will reach our core worlds in 3 months, perhaps less. If we do nothing, we will be extinct in a year. If humans are as dangerous as we fear, then perhaps that is exactly what we need. The debate lasted for hours. Some delegates argued passionately against involving humanity. Others reluctantly agreed that desperate times called for desperate measures. In the end, the vote was close. 25 species in favor, 22 against. The humans would be contacted. We did come to help, Kowalski said. But the council should also understand that we are not the gentle, peaceful species they might hope for. We are warriors, Ambassador. We spent 200 years fighting each other, perfecting the art of war. We unified because we realized the real threats were external, not internal. But we did not lose our edge. We sharpened it. Then help me understand that edge, Thielric said. Because I am trying to advocate for humanity among my people. I am trying to convince them that you are potential allies, not future enemies. But I need to understand what drives you, what humanity wants from this galaxy. Kowalski stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, human warships hung in perfect formation against the stars. Beyond them, the blue-green curve of Proxima Secundus was visible, scarred but surviving. What does humanity want? She repeated quietly. 200 years ago, we wanted acceptance. We wanted to explore the stars, make friends, share knowledge. The galaxy told us no. Told us we were too violent, too primitive, too dangerous. So we went home. We built our own civilization. We thrived without the Council's help. She turned to face Thielric directly. Now we want to be left alone. We want our independence respected. We want the galaxy to acknowledge that we exist on our own terms, not theirs. And we want to ensure that no one ever threatens Earth or her colonies. That is all. We are not seeking to conquer anyone. We are not interested in building an empire. We just want our corner of space and the strength to keep it safe. Then why help us? Thielric asked. If all you want is isolation, why risk your ships and your people for a council that rejected you? Because the Vrex would not have stopped with you, Kowalski replied. Eventually, they would have come for us. Better to stop them now while we have allies, even reluctant ones, than face them alone later. Strategic pragmatism. Ambassador. Nothing more. Thielric nodded slowly. He believed her. Perhaps that was naive, but something in her tone rang true. Humanity was not seeking conquest. They were seeking security. The problem was their definition of security involved weapons capable of destroying fleets in minutes. I will carry your message to the Council, he said. I will advocate for peaceful coexistence and mutual respect. But, Admiral, you must give me something to work with. Some gesture that proves humanity's good intentions. Kowalski thought for a moment. Very well. We will share limited tactical information about Vrex ship capabilities, weapon loadouts, standard formations. Nothing about human technology, but enough to help Council forces defend themselves better. Will that suffice? It is a start, Thielric replied. Thank you, Admiral. Do not thank me yet, Kowalski said grimly. This war is not over. Today was one battle. The Vrex collective is vast. They have lost a fleet, but they have hundreds more scattered across their territory. They will retaliate, and when they do, they will be ready for us. The next battle will not be so easy. Will you stay? Thielric asked. Will humanity continue to fight alongside us? For now, Kowalski confirmed. But understand that our commitment is conditional. If the Council tries to dictate our tactics or question our methods, we leave. If Council politics interfere with military operations, we leave. We are here to win this war, not play games. Are we clear? Crystal clear, Admiral, Thielric replied. As Thielric's shuttle departed the Prometheus, he looked back at the human fleet. 50 ships, just 50, and they had changed the course of galactic history in minutes. What would happen when Earth sent the rest of their fleet? What would happen when humanity revealed the full extent of their military power? He hoped the galaxy was ready for the answer, because ready or not, humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same. Across the galaxy, in the heart of Vrex territory, Fleet Commander Vormik knelt before the Supreme Collective. His flagship had barely escaped the battle at Proxima Secundus. Of the 3,000 ships under his command, only 109 survived. It was the worst defeat in Vrex history. You failed, the Supreme Collective said. Its voice echoed through the chamber, cold and emotionless. The collective was not an individual but a gestalt consciousness, the merged minds of the Vrex ruling caste. It spoke with absolute authority. I encountered an unknown enemy, Vormik replied, keeping his voice steady despite his fear. A species not in our databases. Their technology exceeded anything we have encountered. Their weapons. Your excuses are irrelevant, the collective interrupted. You lost 3,000 warships to 50 enemy vessels. This is unacceptable. Cannot be tolerated. It will not be repeated. With respect, Supreme Collective, this enemy is unlike anything we have faced before, Vormik insisted. They employ weapons we have never seen, tactics we have never encountered. They fight without honor, without restraint, without mercy. They fight like us, the collective finished. You are describing an enemy that fights like the Vrex. This intrigues us. Who are these warriors? They call themselves humans, Vormik replied. A species the Council isolated 200 years ago. Apparently, the Council made a grave error in judgment. The Supreme Collective was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its tone had changed. Less anger, more curiosity. Show us the battle data. Everything. We wish to understand this enemy. Vormik transmitted the recorded sensor logs from his surviving ships. The collective analyzed them in seconds, its merged consciousness processing information faster than any individual mind could. Fascinating, the collective said. Kinetic weapons at near light speed, antimatter warheads, autonomous combat drones, defensive shields of unknown design, all deployed with tactical precision that suggests extensive combat experience. These humans are worthy adversaries. What are your orders, Supreme Collective? Vormik asked. We will suspend offensive operations against Council worlds, the collective announced. All available forces will be redirected to studying this human threat. We will capture their ships, analyze their technology, learn their weaknesses, and when we are ready, we will return to Council space with overwhelming force. A pause. We will destroy the humans first. Then we will finish consuming the Council. How many ships should I requisition? Vormik asked. All of them, the collective replied. Every warship in Vrex space. We will not underestimate these humans again. If 50 of their ships can destroy 3,000 of ours, we will bring 30,000 to their next battle. We will crush them through sheer weight of numbers. No mercy, no restraint, total annihilation. Vormik felt a chill run through his body. The Supreme Collective was committing the entire Vrex military to a single objective. This was unprecedented. But as he remembered the human weapons tearing through his fleet, he understood. Humanity was not just another enemy. They were an existential threat. History was underway. 30,000 warships began moving toward Council space. Not to conquer, not to assimilate, but to destroy a single species that had dared to challenge Vrex supremacy. Humanity had won the first battle, but the war was about to become something far more terrible. Something that would test whether human weapons and tactics were enough to stand against an enemy that could match their ruthlessness and far exceed their numbers. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen when an unstoppable force met an immovable object, when the Vrex war machine collided with human military doctrine. When two species that lived for war finally found worthy opponents in each other, the answer would be written in fire and blood across a dozen star systems. And when it was over, the survivors would remember this moment. The moment everything changed. The moment humanity revealed itself not as saviors or conquerors, but as something the galaxy had never seen before: warriors. True warriors. The kind that emerged from a species that nearly destroyed itself, learning how to kill, then unified just in time to turn those skills outward. The Vrex were about to learn what the Council had suspected 2 centuries ago, that humanity was dangerous. Not despite their capacity for violence, but because of it. Because they had refined violence into an art form. Because they understood war in a way that most species, even warrior species like the Vrex, could never match. They understood that war was not about honor or glory or conquest. War was about winning at any cost, by any means, with absolute commitment and zero hesitation. And humanity was very, very good at winning. News of the Battle of Proxima Secundus spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. Within hours, every major civilization had received the transmission. Within days, the entire galactic community was watching the battle footage on endless repeat. 3,000 Vrex warships destroyed in less than 6 minutes. 50 human vessels untouched. The numbers were clear. The implications were terrifying. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Every species sent their highest-ranking officials. The Grand Chamber, usually filled with diplomatic pleasantries and careful negotiations, buzzed with heated arguments and fearful whispers. Humanity had changed everything, and no one knew how to respond. Chancellor Morvac called the session to order, his skin still pale from shock. Honored delegates, we face an unprecedented situation. The human species has demonstrated military capabilities far beyond anything in Council records. We must decide how to proceed. The ambassador of the Syl Dominion rose first, his serpentine form coiling with agitation. What is there to decide, Chancellor? We invited monsters to save us from predators. Now we must deal with the consequences. The humans are too dangerous to exist freely. They must be controlled or eliminated before they turn on us. The chamber erupted in shouts. Some delegates agreed, others protested. The noise reached deafening levels before Morvac restored order. Ambassador Velker, humanity just saved 7 billion lives on Proxima Secundus, countered Representative Daxel of the Hanari Collective. The bird-like delegate's feathers ruffled with indignation. They came when we asked. They fought when we needed them. They asked for nothing in return. How does this make them monsters? They destroyed 3,000 ships without breaking a sweat, Velker hissed. They possess weapons we cannot comprehend. They follow no laws we recognize. Today they fight the Vrex. Tomorrow, what prevents them from turning those weapons on us? Common sense, said a new voice. Ambassador Thielrick stepped forward, his mandibles clicking nervously but his posture firm. I have spoken with Admiral Kowalski. I have toured their ships. I have seen their capabilities firsthand. And I can tell you that humanity is not interested in conquest. They want security, nothing more. You trust their words? Velker scoffed. Ambassador Thielrick, you have been compromised by your interactions with them. You see them as saviors because they arrived when you were desperate. But I see them for what they are, a threat to everything the Council stands for. The Council stands for unity and mutual protection, Thielrick replied calmly. How is accepting humanity's help against that? Because they did not help us, Velker snapped. They demonstrated their superiority. They showed us that everything we built, every ship we designed, every tactic we developed is worthless against their technology. They humiliated us while pretending to help us. Chancellor Morvac raised his hand for silence. This debate is not productive. We need information, not speculation. I have invited human representation to this session. They will address our concerns directly. The main doors opened. Admiral Sarah Kowalski entered the chamber, flanked by human officers, her expression calm, controlled, and utterly unafraid. 2 human officers. She wore her dress uniform, black with silver insignia, and walked with military precision. Every eye in the chamber followed her as she approached the central podium. Admiral Kowalski, Morvac said formally, "Thank you for accepting our invitation. The Council has questions about the recent battle and humanity's role in this conflict." "I am here to answer them," Chancellor Kowalski replied. Her voice was steady, professional, showing none of the tension that filled the room. Velker did not wait for formal protocols. "Admiral, explain to this Council how humanity developed weapons that violate every technological limitation we have established. Explain how 50 ships destroyed 3,000. Explain how you possess capabilities that should not exist." Kowalski turned to face the Serpentine ambassador directly. "Ambassador Velker, humanity developed our technology through 2 centuries of research and development. We had no council oversight limiting our innovations, no ethics committees declaring certain avenues of research off-limits. We pursued every possible advantage because we knew the universe was dangerous. The Battle of Proxima Secundus proved we were correct. You pursued forbidden technologies," Velker accused. "Antimatter weapons, artificial intelligence warfare, near-light kinetic bombardment. These were all banned by Council law for good reason. Banned by laws we never agreed to," Kowalski pointed out. "Ambassador, humanity is not a Council member. We are not bound by your regulations. You invited us to help with the Vex. We helped. If you have complaints about our methods, perhaps you should have been more specific in your request." Representative Daxall spoke up. "Admiral, I believe Ambassador Velker is expressing a concern shared by many. Not that you broke our laws, but that your capabilities far exceed anything we can match. This creates an imbalance of power that makes some species uncomfortable. I understand the concern, Kowalski acknowledged. But uncomfortable or not, the facts remain. Humanity possesses advanced military technology. We use that technology to defeat the Vex. If the Council wishes to develop similar capabilities, that is your choice. But we will not handicap ourselves to make others feel better. What are your intentions? Asked Council Military Commander Corps. The old general had been silent until now, observing carefully. Admiral, you have proven your strength. What do you want? Territory? Resources? Political power within the Council? We want none of those things, Kowalski replied. As I told Ambassador Thiel, humanity's goal is simple. We want our independence respected. We want our territory left alone. We want to ensure that no external threat can harm Earth or her colonies. That is all. Then why fight for us? Korsith pressed. If you only care about your own security, why risk your people to save ours? Strategic pragmatism, Kowalski said. The Vrex would not have stopped with the Council. Eventually, they would have come for human space. Better to stop them now while we have potential allies than face them alone later. Additionally, this conflict allows us to field test our weapons and gather intelligence on major galactic threats. It serves multiple purposes. The brutal honesty of her answer shocked some delegates. Others nodded in understanding. At least the humans were not pretending their motives were purely altruistic. Chancellor Morvox leaned forward. Admiral Kowalski, the Council appreciates your assistance, but we need assurances. The galaxy needs to know that humanity will not use its power to threaten other species. Can you provide such assurances? No, Kowalski said bluntly. I can tell you that humanity has no current plans for conquest or aggression against Council members. I can tell you that we prefer peaceful coexistence, but I cannot guarantee anything beyond that. If another species attacks human territory, we will respond with overwhelming force. If anyone threatens Earth, we will destroy them. Those are not threats, Chancellor. Those are facts. The chamber fell silent. Her words were not diplomatic. They were not comforting. But they had the ring of absolute truth. Then what prevents the next war? Velker demanded. What stops humanity from deciding that Council space would make nice colonies? What stops you from deciding that other species are threats that need eliminating? The same thing that stops any war, Kowalski replied. Mutual deterrence, cost-benefit analysis, common sense. Ambassador. We could conquer Council space if we wanted to. Our military superiority makes that clear. But why would we? We have everything we need in the Sol system. We have no interest in governing alien populations or managing interstellar empires. War is expensive. Peace is profitable. We choose peace until someone forces us to choose war. Pretty words, Velker muttered. But words are cheap. Then let me offer something more concrete, Kowalski said. Humanity is willing to enter into a mutual defense pact with the Galactic Council. We will commit to defending Council space from external threats. In return, the Council recognizes human sovereignty over the Sol system and our colony worlds. We establish formal diplomatic relations. We share limited technological information that helps the Council defend itself without giving away classified military secrets. This creates a framework for peaceful coexistence based on mutual benefit. Felix's mandibles clicked excitedly. This was more than he had hoped for. A formal alliance between humanity and the Council would stabilize the entire region and give both sides reason to maintain peace. But Velker was not convinced. And if the Council refuses this offer, what then? Kowalski's expression hardened. Then humanity finishes helping you defeat the Vex, returns to the Sol system, and seals our borders. You will never see us again unless you come looking for trouble. We are offering partnership. If you refuse, we offer isolation. Those are the only two options. Chancellor Morvac stood, his aged body moving with surprising energy. The Council will need time to debate this proposal. But personally, Admiral, I support the idea of a formal alliance. We have fought the Vex for 3 years. We have lost millions. Humanity ended a major engagement in 6 minutes. That is the kind of ally we need. There is one more thing the Council should know, Kowalski said quietly. Our intelligence indicates that the Vex are marshalling their entire military for a massive counterattack. They are not giving up. They are preparing to come at us with everything they have. Tens of thousands of ships, perhaps more. They will not make the mistake of underestimating us again. The chamber erupted in panic. Delegates shouted questions. Some called for immediate evacuation of core worlds. Others demanded military mobilization. The fear that had been briefly pushed aside by the victory at Proxima Secundus came flooding back. How long do we have? Korsith demanded. Unknown, Kowalski replied. Weeks at minimum, months at maximum. The Vex are mobilizing forces from across their territory. When they come, it will be with overwhelming numbers. This will be the decisive battle of the war. Can you win? Morvac asked simply. All the politics, all the debates, all the fears came down to that single question. Admiral Kowalski, when the Vrex come with their full might, can humanity stand against them? Kowalski met his gaze steadily. I do not know, Chancellor. At Proxima Secundus, we had technological superiority and the element of surprise. In the next battle, the Vrex will be prepared. They will bring numbers that even our weapons cannot easily overcome. We will fight. We will make them pay for every meter of space. But I cannot guarantee victory. Her honesty was refreshing even as it was terrifying. She was not boasting about human invincibility. She was stating military reality. They were good, perhaps the best, but they were not gods. Then we fight together, Kors said firmly. The old general rose to his feet, his scarred scales gleaming. If the Vrex are coming with everything, then the Council commits. Everything as well. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior. We combine our forces with humanity's. We make our stand together or fall together. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Whatever fears the delegates had about humanity, they feared the Vex more, and if there was a chance that combining forces could win, they would take it. Chancellor Morvox looked around the chamber, gauging the mood. Is there a second to General Korsta's proposal? I second, Felrich said immediately. All in favor of full military alliance with humanity for the duration of the Vrex conflict. Hands, claws, tentacles, and various other appendages rose throughout the chamber. The vote was nearly unanimous. Only Velter and a handful of others abstained. Then it is decided, Morvax announced. The Galactic Council formally allies with humanity. Admiral Kowalski, you will have full access to Council military resources and intelligence. In return, we ask for your continued support against the Vrex threat. Agreed, Kowalski said. I will coordinate with General Korst to integrate our forces. We have a lot of work to do and not much time to do it. As the session ended and delegates filed out, Thielrix approached Kowalski. You were honest with them. You did not promise easy victory or minimize the danger. I appreciate that. Lying would not help anyone, Kowalski replied. The Vex are coming. The next battle will be hell. But at least now we face it together. Admiral, may I ask you something personal? Thielrix said. Go ahead. You spoke about humanity's wars, about fighting each other for 50 years, about millions dying. Does that haunt you? The cost of becoming so good at war. Kowalski was quiet for a moment. Every day, Ambassador. Every day, I remember the battles of the Belt Wars, the Mars Rebellion, the Europa Incident. I remember friends who died fighting other humans over resources and ideology and stupid pride. Yes, it haunts me. But it also taught us something important. That war between civilized species is the worst kind of waste. That we need to direct our capacity for violence outward against real threats, not inward against each other. That lesson cost millions of lives. I will not let those deaths be meaningless. You carry a heavy burden, Thielrix observed. So do you, Kowalski replied. You convinced your people to trust humans, to ally with monsters, as some called us. That took courage. I convinced them because I believe you meant what you said, that humanity wants peace. We do, Kowalski confirmed. But understand something, Ambassador. We want peace because we know the cost of war, not because we fear it. There is a difference. And in the coming battle, the Vex will learn that difference the hard way. Across the galaxy in Vrex territory, Fleet Commander Vormik stood aboard his new flagship, watching as thousands of warships gathered. This was just one of 30 assembly points. At each one, 1,000 ships prepared for war. The largest military force the Vex had ever assembled, all for one purpose: destroying humanity. The Supreme Collective's voice echoed through his mind. Status report. Assembly is proceeding as planned. Supreme Collective, Vormik reported. 28,000 warships have reached their marshalling points. Another 5,000 are en route. We will be ready to launch the offensive within 3 weeks. The humans will not expect such numbers, the collective said with satisfaction. They defeated 3,000 ships through technological surprise. But technology means nothing when buried under sufficient mass. We will overwhelm them. 30,000 ships against their 50. Even their weapons cannot kill fast enough. What of the Council forces? Vormik asked. Intelligence suggests they are combining their fleet with the humans. Irrelevant, the collective replied. The Council's weapons are ineffective against our shields. Only the humans pose a real threat. Once they are eliminated, the Council will fall within weeks. We will assimilate everything, their worlds, their resources, their populations. All will serve the Vex. Vormik felt the familiar anticipation of battle. This time would be different. This time they would not underestimate the enemy. This time they would bring overwhelming force. And this time the humans would learn that there were some enemies even advanced technology could not defeat. The countdown had begun. 3 weeks until the largest space battle in galactic history. 3 weeks until humanity's weapons faced a test beyond anything they had encountered. 3 weeks until the galaxy learned whether 50 human ships and their Council allies could stand against 30,000 Vrex warships bent on total annihilation. The stakes could not be higher. If humanity won, they would secure their place among the stars and cement the alliance with the Council. If they lost, the Vex would consume everything. Earth would fall. The Council would collapse. An entire section of the galaxy would go dark. There would be no middle ground, no negotiated settlement, no honorable retreat. Just war, pure and absolute. Survival or extinction. That was all that remained. And on both sides, warriors prepared for battle, knowing that the outcome would echo through history for generations to come. 23 days after the Battle of Proxima Secundus, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history gathered at the Kepler Gate. 550 human warships stood in perfect formation, their dark hulls absorbing light like holes in space. Around them, 800 Council vessels from 47 different species formed a protective sphere. This was it, the final stand. Everything came down to what happened in the next few hours. Admiral Sarah Kowalski stood on the bridge of the EDS Prometheus, watching the tactical displays. Her fleet had grown. Earth Command had sent 500 additional ships. Every available human warship now stood ready for combat. This was not a token force. This was the full might of humanity's military. Sensor contact, Lieutenant Chun reported. Multiple jump signatures at extreme range. Counting. Admiral, I am reading 30,317 Vrex vessels. They are emerging from faster than light in attack formation. 30,000. The number was staggering. Even prepared for it, Kowalski felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. The Vex had brought everything. Every ship, every weapon, every warrior. They were not here to fight a battle. They were here to wage total war. Status of Council forces? Kowalski asked calmly. All 800 ships are reporting ready, Admiral, Commander Webb replied. General Korst confirms his forces are prepared for combat operations under human tactical command. That had been the key negotiation. The Council agreed to place their entire fleet under human command for this battle. It went against centuries of tradition and pride, but desperation made compromises necessary. General Korst had supported the decision, recognizing that unified command was essential for survival. Communications, fleet-wide channel, Kowalski ordered. Channel open, Admiral. Kowalski's voice went out to 1,300 ships. Human and alien crews alike heard her words. This is Admiral Kowalski to all vessels. The Vreks have brought 30,000 warships to this battle. They outnumber us roughly 23 to 1. They come here seeking revenge for their defeat at Proxima Secundus. They come here to destroy humanity and eliminate the Council. They come here believing that superior numbers will overcome our technological advantage. She paused, letting the weight of those numbers sink in. They are partially correct. Numbers matter in warfare. Mass matters, and they have overwhelming mass on their side. But they are also wrong. They do not understand what they are facing. They see humans as just another species with advanced weapons. They see the Council as the same defeated force they have been crushing for years. They do not understand that we are different now, that we fight together, that we have adapted and learned and prepared for exactly this moment. Another pause. 200 years ago, humanity was told we were too dangerous for civilized space. Today, we prove that assessment was correct. We are dangerous not to our allies but to our enemies. We are the most dangerous thing in this galaxy. Today, we show the Vex what it means to face humanity and her allies. Today, we show them that some species should never be provoked. Today, we write a message in fire and blood that will echo across the stars for 1,000 years. You do not threaten Earth. You do not threaten the Council. You do not threaten any of our worlds. Because if you do, we will come for you, all of us, and we will not stop until the threat is eliminated. Final pause. All ships weapons free. Execute Battle Plan Omega. For Earth, for the Council, for survival. The combined fleet surged forward. Unlike at Proxima Secundus, they did not charge recklessly. They moved in careful formation, human ships in the vanguard, Council vessels providing support and coverage. They had planned this battle for 3 weeks. Every ship knew its role. Every captain understood the strategy. This was not improvisation. This was calculated warfare conducted by experienced commanders against a desperate enemy. The Vreks fleet advanced to meet them, 30,000 warships moving as one. Their formation was designed to maximize overlapping fields of fire and prevent the concentrated attacks that had devastated them before. They had learned from Proxima Secundus. They would not cluster. They would not present easy targets. They would use their numbers to surround and overwhelm. Enemy fleet splitting into 3 prongs, Chun reported. They are attempting to envelop us from multiple vectors. Anticipated, Kowalski replied. Execute countermove Alpha. Human squadrons 1 through 10, engage the central prong. Squadrons 11 through 30, hold position and prepare to intercept flanking forces. Council fleet, focus on defensive screening and anti-missile operations. Orders flashed across 1,300 ships. The fleet shifted formation smoothly, adapting to Vreks movements with practiced precision. 3 weeks of integrated training showed in the coordination. Human and Council forces moved as a single organism, responding to threats before they fully materialized. The Vreks opened fire at maximum range, 30,000 ships unleashing plasma torpedoes and energy beams in a wave that lit up space like a second sun. The combined firepower was beyond calculation. Enough to vaporize planets, enough to boil oceans, enough to kill gods. The human shields held, but barely. The quantum-hardened ablative shielding that had shrugged off Vreks weapons at Proxima Secundus now flickered and strained under the massive barrage. Warning alerts sounded across multiple bridges. Shield generators overheated. Power conduits strained. The sheer mass of incoming fire was too much for even human technology to completely withstand. Shields down to 60%, Admiral, Webb reported. We cannot sustain this level of bombardment for long. We do not need to, Kowalski replied. Range to targets? Entering effective weapons range in 30 seconds. All human vessels, charge weapons to maximum. Prepare to fire on my mark. The 30 seconds felt like hours. Vreks fire continued to hammer the human fleet. 2 Council ships exploded as plasma torpedoes overwhelmed their inferior shields. 5 more sustained critical damage. But the humans held formation, absorbing punishment, waiting for their moment. Range achieved. Fire. 550 human warships unleashed hell simultaneously. Railguns firing in synchronized salvos. Antimatter torpedoes launched in carefully calculated spreads. Drone swarms deploying by the 100,000. The amount of destructive energy released in that single moment exceeded the total output of many stars. The Vrex central prong simply ceased to exist. 8,000 warships caught in the cone of fire were vaporized, crippled, or sent spinning out of control with catastrophic damage. The humans had concentrated their fire rather than spreading it. They chose to annihilate one section of the Vrex fleet completely rather than damage all of it partially. Central prong eliminated. Chun reported with barely concealed awe. Enemy forces on flanks are adjusting formation. They are pulling back to regroup. Do not let them, Kowalski ordered. All squadrons pursue and engage. Keep them off balance. Do not give them time to coordinate a response. The human fleet split into multiple task forces, each one moving independently but in coordination with the others. This was the advantage of extensive training and AI-assisted tactical coordination. They could maintain a unified strategy while allowing individual commanders tactical flexibility. Fleet Commander Vormik watched his tactical display with growing horror. 8,000 ships gone just like that. The humans had done it again. Their weapons were simply too powerful. His numerical advantage was meaningless if they could destroy thousands of his ships in seconds. All forces fall back to secondary positions, he ordered. We need to establish a defensive perimeter and force them to come to us. But the humans did not let him. They pressed their attack relentlessly, forcing Vrex ships to fight while out of position, preventing them from forming the coordinated defense Vormik needed. This was not the brute force victory of Proxima Secundus. This was skilled commanders using superior technology and better tactics to defeat an enemy that outnumbered them more than 20 to 1. And it was working. The battle raged for hours. Human ships darted through Vrex formations like sharks, their weapons tearing apart everything they touched. Council forces provided crucial support. Their shields intercepted missiles meant for human vessels. Their sensors extended the range at which human weapons could track targets. It was not perfect coordination. Ships still died. Mistakes were made, but the alliance held. Admiral Kowalski watched the casualty reports mount. 20 human ships destroyed, 37 damaged, 112 council vessels lost. Against those losses, the Vrex had lost over 17,000 warships. The numbers favored the alliance, but the cost was staggering. Every destroyed ship represented thousands of dead crew members. Every human casualty was someone who had trained and fought and trusted her command. Admiral, the Vrex are breaking formation, Webb reported. They are falling back across all sectors. It looks like a general retreat. Confirm it, Kowalski ordered. Make sure this is not a tactical withdrawal. Chun checked his displays. Confirmed. They are activating faster than light drives. The Vrex fleet is retreating from the system. A cheer went up across multiple bridges. Human and council crews celebrated together. They had done it. They had faced 30,000 Vrex warships and won. The impossible victory was theirs. But Kowalski did not celebrate. She studied the tactical display, watching the remaining Vrex ships flee. 13,000 had escaped. 13,000 warships still existed. The Vrex were not destroyed. They were defeated, bloodied, but not eliminated. Status report, she ordered. 20 human ships destroyed, 37 damaged but reparable, Webb replied. Council forces report 112 vessels destroyed, 240 damaged. We sustained approximately 15% casualties. The Vrex lost over half their fleet. Will they come back? Someone asked. Kowalski was quiet for a moment. Eventually, maybe, but not soon. We broke their main force. It will take years for them to rebuild, maybe decades, and by then we will be even stronger. She opened a channel to the fleet. All ships, excellent work today. You fought with courage and skill. The victory is yours. Well done. Another cheer echoed through the fleet. This time, Kowalski allowed herself a small smile. They had earned this moment. They had faced overwhelming odds and prevailed. That was worth celebrating. Ambassador Thiel appeared on her view screen, his mandibles clicking with obvious joy. Admiral, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you. You saved us. You saved all of us. We saved each other, Ambassador, Kowalski replied. Your ships fought bravely. Your people died alongside ours. This victory belongs to the Alliance, not just humanity. The Council will not forget what happened here, Thielric said. Seriously, we came into this war divided and desperate. We emerged united and victorious. That is the gift humanity gave us, not just military aid, but the example of what we could be when we work together. Ambassador, I have a request, Kowalski said. Anything, Admiral. Formally invite humanity to join the Galactic Council. Full membership, equal voting rights, mutual defense pact, the works. It is time we stop being outsiders looking in. It is time we become part of this galaxy properly. Felix's mandibles clicked rapidly with surprise and pleasure. Admiral, I will personally sponsor that proposal. After today, I doubt anyone will vote against it. Welcome home, humanity. Welcome home. As the fleet began organizing rescue operations and damage assessment, Kowalski looked out at the stars. 200 years ago, humanity had been rejected, cast out, told they were too dangerous. Today, they had proven that assessment both right and wrong. They were dangerous to the right people, to threats, to enemies, to those who would harm the innocent. And now, finally, they were coming home. Not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as equals, as partners, as members of a galaxy that was learning that sometimes you needed dangerous allies to face dangerous threats. Her grandmother had been on the Aurora colony when it was abandoned. Kowalski had grown up hearing stories of how the Council turned its back on humanity when they needed help. That betrayal had shaped human policy for 2 centuries. But now she thought perhaps they could move past it. Perhaps the wounds could heal. Commander Webb, she said quietly. Yes, Admiral. Send a message to Earth. Tell them the war is over. Tell them we won. Tell them we are coming home. And tell them we are not alone anymore. Webb smiled. Aye, Admiral. It will be my pleasure. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread even faster than before. 30,000 Vrex warships defeated. The Alliance victorious. Humanity proven. The Council saved. Within days, the entire galactic community knew what had happened. Within weeks, the political landscape changed completely. Species that had been neutral suddenly wanted human technology. Civilizations that had been skeptical now sought alliances. The Vrex, humbled and defeated, retreated to their core worlds and went silent. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy was at peace. The Galactic Council formally invited humanity to join as full members. The vote was unanimous. Even Ambassador Velker voted in favor, recognizing that opposing humanity now would be both pointless and dangerous. Earth accepted the invitation, and for the first time in 200 years, humans walked the halls of the Council as equals rather than petitioners. Admiral Kowalski was offered multiple promotions and honors. She declined most of them. She did accept one, a joint commission as both Earth Defense Fleet Admiral and Council Military Advisor. Someone had to make sure the alliance held. Someone had to ensure that humans and aliens continued working together. She would be that bridge. Years later, historians would look back at the Battle of Kepler Gate as the turning point. The moment when humanity rejoined galactic civilization, the moment when the Council learned that unity made them stronger, the moment when the Vrex learned that there were species they could not defeat. But for those who fought there, who bled there, who lost friends there, it would always be something simpler. The day they proved that working together, even the impossible could be achieved. The day humanity stopped being the scary outsiders and became trusted allies. The day the galaxy learned that sometimes the most dangerous species can also be the most valuable friends. Admiral Sarah Kowalski stood in her quarters aboard the Prometheus, looking at a photo of her grandmother, the woman who had survived the Aurora colony abandonment, the woman who had instilled in young Sarah a healthy distrust of aliens and a burning determination to ensure Earth would never be vulnerable again. We did it, Babsha, Kowalski whispered in Polish. We made them respect us. We made them see us as equals. And we did it without becoming the monsters they feared. I hope that makes you proud. Outside her window, human and alien ships worked side by side, repairing damage, tending the wounded, sharing supplies. The barriers were not gone. Trust was still fragile. But it was a start, a real start. And sometimes Kowalski thought that is all you can ask for. A chance to prove yourself, a chance to build something better, a chance to turn former enemies into future friends. Humanity had been given that chance, and they had seized it with both hands. The war was over, but the real work, the work of building lasting peace, was just beginning. It would take years, decades, maybe generations. But for the first time in 200 years, humanity and the galaxy were working toward that goal together. And that was worth everything they had sacrificed to achieve it.